Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ensemble Salons. I'm Shana Jackson, the curator of Ensemble, and together with London Games Festival, we've been working on highlighting the achievements of BAME talent in the video games industry. These are people who are making games you love and creating paths forward for interactive entertainment. We've so far showcased 24 hugely talented UK creatives from all sorts of disciplines: art and audio, writing and coding, even game streaming and marketing. By showing off diverse voices that make games, we can attract more talent into our sector and create even more vibrant worlds for us to play in. The salons are a chance to offer a better understanding of the careers of this year's 8 Ensemble stars. Every month, we'll be asking one of our stars to interview another, which will build up into an exciting chain of talks. So thanks again to our partners at British Council and Mayor of London. Without their support, Games London couldn't deliver this event. Thanks again for joining us.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, welcome. Hey, hello everyone, and welcome to the final Ensemble Salon of 2020. I'm Abubakar Salim, and I've been gifted with the opportunity to talk and learn more about Rose Buahin.
Hey.
Now, for those who don't know who Rose is, she is the Xbox Games category lead. She is a multi-award winning strategic marketing specialist with almost 20 years of experience within the video games industry. She's worked at different spaces and held a number of senior roles at places like Sony PlayStation, Warner Brothers, Curve Digital, and Microsoft, where you are currently managing the full Xbox Games portfolio, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. I don't know where to even start here. Do you know what I mean? Like you've got so much going on. it's great. And like, but I think actually, you know what? Let's start from the beginning. Let's start from who you are, where you grew up. What is it? Go on, give me some of the Rose story.
Okay. Well, I'm a South Londoner, born and bred. And how far do you want to go? Okay, then let's just start. Just South London,
Yeah.
London, born and bred. I've from Ghanaian heritage.
Yeah.
I've I guess put on a gaming hook. We kind of we're PC gamers as a family, and
Oh, really?
We were, yeah. And in
Okay.
those days, I say those days, it was about going to LAN cafes, so really dedicated. But also, we could speak to our families in the States,
Right, of course.
And also Nintendo gamers as well. So that's kind of back in the day.
And so you're telling me that you've had this game bug from pretty much from nearly day dot, right? This playing of games and everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But it was like entertainment as you would TV, right? It wasn't.
Right.
It was never a case of, okay, this is the job or this is the career path that I want to take, because that was never an option.
Okay.
It was well, it's just something you wouldn't think this was. You could kind of craft a career in that industry, or definitely something that you enjoy doing. So but we were big movie fans as well as a family, and it was always entertainment, right? So yes, that's starting back, and then I guess from a career path route, it was I went to university. I studied marketing and psychology.
Okay.
I thought if you think how I was always interested in how people's mind worked, and I thought, if you know how their mind works, then you can market to them or show them this or sell them. So that was the kind of incentive, I guess, for me to do that course. And I fell into games as a career. When I graduated, I got a job as an international sales coordinator at IDOS, and that just happened. It was a junior sales role. It just happened to be in the games industry. It's like, oh wow, okay, you can actually, I can actually do this for a living, and I just loved it. I fell in love with the industry straight away, and I've stayed ever since. I've been around, as you said, worked at various companies. But yeah, I was fortunate. I was able to gain a lot of experience from those companies, especially smaller companies, because you get to do a bit of everything. You manage your own business unit. You work across sales and marketing and finance and product marketing, events and sampling. So I think that really it helped. I guess just strengthen my knowledge in the industry. Because I had little pockets in so many different areas. So yeah, I love that.
And I mean, like, it must have, again, it must have evolved. You like, you've witnessed the evolution of, the games industry to a degree. And I mean, I don't know, from me and from my experience, I've seen it almost, really, really grow. And I mean, so for you, you must, you're pivotal to that, really, in a sense. You know what I mean? You've been
Yeah.
really kind of, and so in that kind of, so what was it like then working at all these like different studios? Because I mean, like, from my understanding, from what you said, you've worked both, but within the hardware and the software sort of campaigns
Yeah.
within this industry. And it's like, so how has that been? And how did we lead to it today now where you are at Xbox?
Well, I think that my experience, as I said, with the smaller companies, I love that I was able to do a bit of everything and learn so much. But also the industry was a different place then in terms of the number of females working in the industry, number of people.
Right.
I remember I remember particularly when I used to work for a PC games publisher, and I was a sales executive, and I had to carry around my huge gaming PC and a monitor and a keyboard to meetings just so I could demo early code to buyers. We didn't have the funds for a slick Alienware. This is what I had to do. And when I mean carry, I don't mean a neat flight attendant case. I mean the big carry a dead body kind of holder. That's what I was doing. And but I always had scrutiny as a female demoing games. So I had to be. I had to be good, but I had to
Mm.
be excellent. It was, I was so conscious of that. So I used to stay up the night before and practice just so I could get through most of the level without dying, and also nail my sales script at the same time. Then the next morning I'd have to deliver a seamless demo to a sea of buyers. I remember one occasion a male buyer he just grabbed the mouse to play for himself mid demo in front of everyone. Even though I was killing it, I was excellent, but I don't know if it's just that perception of females demoing. I
That's
mean, funny.
so, wow.
Yeah, honestly, and I was going to say, even now, I've actually developed a fear of playing in front of people, especially men, because there's that fear of judgment. I end up making mistakes. I actually find it stressful. So I've become a solo player as a result.
Yeah.
But I mean, just sorry, you go. Keep
No,
jumping.
it's fascinating because it's one of those things where then that's something that that is really interesting about the evolution of the game world, right? And that about the industry is the fact that I know that you are incredibly active within the sort of diversity and inclusion, and and also with youth development, right? And I
Yeah,
think that there has been this real change in regards to when it comes to sort of inclusion of different genders, different sort of races and all this sort of stuff. Like,
yeah,
it's massively kind of changed, and it's still changing, like, of course. And I was just,
yeah,
with someone of your experience, to have probably seen it in an age in which was quite tough, like, and having those experiences to now
yeah.
be in the time like now, do you feel like there has been some form, big changes in regards to now, and like your experience with it now? Like, has it been easier to take on?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but there's so many changes in the industry. I'll touch upon
Yeah.
what you say in particular. We're seeing more people of color in games broadcasting, streaming, presenting, creating content for the gaming community. We continue to work to see more diverse characters in our games as well. We never had that before, or it wasn't a focus before. Now there's an active drive to improve diversity and balances in the industry. And actually that came as a result of the launch earlier in the year of the UK diversity census.
Mm.
And that basically highlighted it highlighted the imbalances of, as I said, of diverse workers. It revealed that I think 10% of people working in the games are people of color and 28% are females. So what's come from that diversity census was the Raise the Game pledge, which effectively it ensures that a number of partners, including Microsoft, commit to improving diversity within the games industry. And that's a massive change. As I said, it's something that we never saw before. But I guess aside from that, there's so many changes I can mention.
Mm.
There's so much talent, emerging talent coming from studios, which helped to grow our industry, right? You know, this is now a multi-billion-dollar business, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, we can see game development and marketing that could be on par to a Hollywood film, right?
Yeah.
You know, and our industry is even larger than Hollywood movies, or movies and films combined. But, you know, the other changes that I've seen are like the mammoth rise of esports, subscription services, the continued tech advancements like VR. We've got the big tech players coming into gaming, Google and Apple, hello. There's an increase in video gaming streaming, you know, such as cloud gaming with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, you know, which we launched this year. But, you know, so you can stream and play games on the go effectively as you would make, you know, stream movies on the go with Netflix. So it's I love the industry, you know. And
none of that age of like blowing the cartridge and like putting that in now. No, it's like it's literally on demand.
Look where we are now, right? Who would have thought, you know? And who, so there's so much great stuff happening, but you know, from a diversity and inclusion element, coming back to your question, that we know there's more to come, right? There's more to do, but the fact that we've started is really important.
So okay, so I want to know this, right? Because I know that you've currently worked in the, let's say, for example, within the campaign for the Xbox Series X, right? This is quite this year. So tell me, how does that work? What did that entail? Like, I mean, of course you would have known that the Series X was, you know, going to be, you would have known the date of its launch before anyone else. Like, how does the actual planning for something like that, like, how does that take place? If that makes sense, you know what I mean? Because I mean, for me, from a bystander, I just look, I see the adverts and I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. This looks so great. I'm really excited for this. I can't wait to buy it. But the fact that, you know, there's been many consoles that, you know, that have come out. We've got the Xbox 360, the Xbox One X or whatever, and now, but I still always get that excited feeling. So it must be something that you're obviously doing. And so so tell me, how does that work? How does that look like?
Well, you know, that we start with the excitement, right? Because as a team, as a business, we knew that we had like the most powerful, you know, generation or next generation console. So it's like, okay, so how do we bring this to the masses? But, you know, I think what's key is that the biggest change this year in our planning was COVID, right? And working in a virtual world, you know. So we were tasked with showcasing the fantastic elements of our console in a way that our consumers would know, you know. So we're looking at the materials that we're creating, we're looking at the channels that we're going to utilize. You know, the change in marketing is we had to eliminate or reduce the elements that would have been in store. You know, in a normal world or a normal launch world, we would have had events, physical events, to showcase, you know, that our content, or showcase the game, the hardware capabilities used in our content, you know. So we had to adapt how our campaign would work, and we had to do it in the virtual world. But so I guess it's the same process in terms of matching those key unique selling points, the things that we are really excited about, and making sure that our audience can see that, and, you know, showcasing that as best as we can.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And that is the thing, right? It's keeping it fresh in regards to that. And I think it's funny that you mentioned COVID, because that must have really, again, thrown a spanner in the works, but also kind of pushed you probably to almost think in a way, think of how to deal with a problem. You're a problem solver, basically. That's what you do, right? So, go on. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, the thing about COVID is that, you know, because I mean, our players, our gamers, they're at the heart of everything that we do. That's fundamental place that we start with. But, you know, their priorities changed in COVID. You know, that was a huge impact. And, you know, we had those legislations as well, which, for example, as I said, about sampling and being 2 meters apart, that restricted what we were doing. You know, so I guess that, as I said, the impact of our marketing campaign in particular for Xbox Series X was what can we do to still showcase those experiences, you know, but we can't do it on a physical store element. So we adapted that to create online digital experiences, you know, which would be through Xbox On or retail partners. I think the actual Series X launch itself, you know, we planned through Teams, through Microsoft Teams. You know, we designed and produced that 14-foot monolith. You know, we featured incredible animations and 4K projections and binaural soundtrack, but that came to life on a live stream. You
Mm,
know, that was epic. So it was adapting that whole idea and concept, but taking it to the virtual world, because that's where our players were now, or are now. So
mm.
yeah, it was cool.
And so tell me, do you find like the difference when it comes to campaigning for either like hardware or software? Is there much of a difference really, or is it quite, is there there quite a few similarities? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, do you know it? Because one needs the other. You know,
Right.
one you need the software to showcase the hardware capabilities. You
Mm.
know, so for us, it's there are pretty similar, where you find the key elements, the unique selling points, and you just make sure that your consumers can see that, or find a way to showcase that messaging to your consumers. So they are pretty similar.
Okay.
Definitely, you know, go hand in hand.
Cool. Okay. Because it's interesting because again, it's that whole thing of like, whereas one is like, one is base, one is home, the Xbox, and then you've also got the games as well that feed into that. They almost feel like this is like the accessory to that thing, and it's like, how do you then approach that? But that's interesting. Okay, that they're similar.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
And so, all right. So tell me then. I mean, in regards to sort of marketing now, and I mean, like I say now, but really social media has kind of been with us for a while now. But have you found that also that within the way that social media and the way that we take things in, for example, like Twitter, and all the kind of how active Twitter is now, especially within the games community and stuff,
yeah.
has that also affected the way in how you have approached marketing and all that kind of stuff?
It's, I think, I mean, the main thing with social media is that
Mm,
it's the immediacy, right? It's, you know,
right,
it's the immediacy of the content or the messaging that you're putting out. If consumers don't like it, they're going to tell you straight away. You know, it's the ability to adapt to that immediate feedback. The other thing is that I think the difference again with social media is that consumers are able to make their own choice, in a sense that there's a vast amount of um, reviews or content that they can view. You know, you can put something out there. You know, these are the key USPs, Mr. Consumer. Okay, let me just check that out for myself. You know, these are the key things here. And you know what? I'm going to check out an influencer who maybe is specialized here or has done this and here, and see what he has to say about it. You know, it's almost like, you know, there's so much more to consider. So there's an authenticity in your messaging as well, because, you know, not saying that consumers weren't savvy before, but there's, you know, they will tell you straight away that immediacy of feedback. And, you know, in some instances with game development, you know, that feedback is useful. You know, that
right.
feedback is to tweak things if you're doing, if it's a game in early access, for example. You know, so I guess the power of the consumer, you know, is great, or greater now. Which, you know, which just means that we have to adapt even more in terms of just ensuring that we are speaking to more of them, and speaking as much as we can along the way during our campaign.
And I guess that connectivity as well really helps because it is now you are very close with them, right? It isn't about
Absolutely.
surveys. The
Yeah,
answer can literally come straight from a tweet or straight from a post or
exactly.
something. And it is
Exactly.
about
Yeah.
that. That's yeah. And so all right, so then I want to go back a bit. I want to talk about your experience in something like Warner Brothers because again, like when if I was if you were to say that to anyone, everyone would think Warner Brothers film, kind of that kind of world or TV. But of course,
Mm.
they do games, and I was wondering, so how did you, so what did you do at Warner Brothers, and how did that kind of, where did that come in? When did that come in?
Well, you know, I joined Warner Brothers at a time that they wanted to set up a gaming division, and I was actually at PlayStation, and I was invited to join Warner Brothers to help set that up.
Mm,
And so they just bought a few studios, or started to buy or work with key studios. At the time, it was working with TT Games on the Lego Games franchise, and yes, I actually did a trade marketing role, so I was responsible for our brand activation and
oh wow.
sales activities from a retail level. And but the way we kind of worked at Warner Brothers is that we worked across franchises. So, for example, I worked
Interesting.
closely with, because I worked with, say, on Lego Batman, I would work with the DC franchise team, you know, so who looked after the Lego franchise, who looks after the Batman franchise throughout the life cycle. I just happened to be looking after the games category, you know, so that's how we worked at Warner Brothers. And it was fantastic because I'm a massive movie fan as well, and I'm a massive Harry Potter fan. So to even be in the building was just insane for me. So it was just helping to grow and start the actual games division. That was my role at Warner Brothers. Which I loved. I've loved everywhere that I've worked. I actually came back. I was invited to return to PlayStation to launch. I think it was PlayStation Vita at the time.
Right.
So yeah.
I mean, that must have been that's really interesting again as well, in the sense of handling like massive franchises, in very different to like indie games, for example, or like, small games that are like solely just games, whereas you're dealing with something like Batman or like, that kind of vibe. And is there a lot of like I mean, again, not necessarily politics, but there are certain ways of, I mean, there must be a difference of handling something like, for example, like the Lego Batman franchise and that kind of, language that needs to be used for that, in comparison to something like a, a God of War game, for example, which is now, you could argue is a franchise to a degree, but you know what I mean? Like it's like there must have been that also difference, right? Was it quite, I mean, as from your position, was it quite, again, puzzling or challenging in regards to dealing with that kind of such a big franchise,
Yeah, do you know, the main thing is actually is looking after and honoring the IP, the intellectual properties.
Okay.
As you say, the DC franchise, the Batman franchise, the Harry Potter franchise. We did Lego Harry Potter 1 to 4. As you said, they're pretty big franchises, pretty big IPs. So the main difference is in working on an indie title is that you have to respect the IP. There are brand guidelines that follow the IP. The way that it's represented in your materials that you create, how you speak about them. And it's almost you have to sustain the viewer's perception of that brand. I can't just run off and do my own thing. It's like you have to respect that. And even some of the activity that you're doing, it has to be true to that brand ethos. So that's the main difference of working on those big IPs. It's like, this is, it has to be true. I mean, for example, I don't know, for example, you wouldn't find Batman cooking in the kitchen, or I can't do it.
Hey, I'd play that game though.
Batman wouldn't do that, so just you have to be true to the IP that you're looking at.
The IP of it all, yeah, of course.
Be respectful to the IP owners.
Right. Okay. And then now I'd say, like, are you still dealing with games, like individual games as well now, or is it mainly just like, as you said, like the idea of dealing with like the Xbox Series X, or are you dealing also with like specific Microsoft sort of exclusives and all that lot as well?
I am.
Space?
I have. And as I said, the same kind of scenario in terms of helping to bring them to market, but also working across the full spectrum in sense of looking at our sales programs, so looking from a commercial perspective as well as marketing, monitoring the operations as well, to making sure that we have enough stock, to bring to stores. So it's the full route to market of our software games as well, working with our amazing studios to, make sure again that we're representing their IPs. These are, studios that have worked hard to bring the games to us. So we've got a responsibility to deliver them the way that they should be. So that's part of my role as well.
Cool. And so, I mean, we mentioned it earlier. We touched upon it earlier in regards to the fact that this year has been such a change and turn of events, right? And like it's forced a lot of people to kind of not only work from home, but also, change their ideas and perspectives and values to a degree. And really, and I was wondering how did it affect much of what you've done and what you were doing in regards to, in regards to working from home? You're not physically being there. Did it change things for, do you feel like, for the good, for the worse? How has COVID handled you? You know what I mean?
Do you know what? I have to say, I feel really fortunate. I have to say that from the start, because a lot of my friends, they've suffered the effects of COVID, whether it's job losses or jobs that they had face-to-face contact. I'm fortunate that I work for a tech company, number one.
Right.
So we were able to transfer our planning materials online. Microsoft Teams has been a godsend. I was able to speak to my colleagues, my global colleagues, European colleagues, still on a regular basis, and still maintain our campaign beats and planning, in addition to that, the company as a whole is really focused on our well-being as well. We understand that everyone has different work patterns, right? Especially in this lockdown scenario. We have more, some of my colleagues have different have children to look after and school, and etc. So we had that flexibility and able to adapt our planning that way. I just think that I am fortunate that I work for a tech company and we were able to carry on and maintain our planning despite everything that was happening, and it's been good, really good.
I mean like it's one of those things which is like, you look at the gaming world and it has evolved, right? It's I mean like, and it's grown almost stronger in this quite tough, rough time. And I guess that, the was there a pressure? Did you feel the pressure of the fact that it was almost like the games industry did blow up? Did that affect your, what you had to do in regards to, again, as I said, like, of course, like in adapting to it and learning about the consumer in that way? Did that kind of take into?
No, I didn't feel any pressure at all, actually.
Really?
It was
Okay.
just about getting the job done. And as I said, it was,
Okay.
as I said, because we're so focused on our consumers and our players, it's like, what, they're as I said, their focus has changed as well. It's they're worried about their jobs and the economy and everything else. So it was just about just carrying on with our campaigns and our planning. But adapting where we needed to be, but I never felt the pressure to get this game out or to succeed, etc., etc. We were just carrying on with our jobs as much as we can, which effectively also was supporting the games industry in the sense of jobs and those that had worked on their development plans, for example. So it just felt that we just keep going as much as you can. We still we're doing what we can, but there was never a pressure to meet targets or deadlines.
Right. Okay.
Going on. Yeah, absolutely.
And all right, so I want to talk a bit about culture, and I want to ask you, because you've had such these different experiences within different spaces of be it from small companies to big companies to Microsoft. It's like the work culture and it must have been so different in regards to these different spaces. With working with a smaller team, for example, or working with something as big as Microsoft. And I was something that I'd love to know is like, how has what were your big takes from these sort of experiences of working with all these different teams that you've now been able to sort of use within working, today with Microsoft, with this massive, massive machine, right? Yeah. Tell me a bit about that.
It's learning, education. Honestly, I'm like a sponge. There's so many different things, just I want it, just as I said, I think that my role now is, as I said, I do a bit of marketing and anything that brings the game to market, right? Or our games to market. So you're looking at marketing, you're looking at the commercial aspect. And a lot of the elements that I'm doing from a commercial perspective, for example, I learned in some smaller companies, whether it's managing my P&L, because effectively, as I said, you're managing your business unit, learning about financing, and I just think that I'm fortunate that I've had the opportunity to just dip in and just take what I can, and if there's a little element that I'm interested in, then I can learn more, research more. I think definitely the education is just, and learning and that work experience is just, it's really has done me well. And that's what I've definitely taken from these large and smaller companies. Yeah, definitely.
Did you and now I guess I assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you work with now other sort of companies under the umbrella of Microsoft to talk to them about their IPs and trying to branch their IPs? I mean, I don't know how you can keep all of these games and stuff in your head and try and almost, market them, especially in that regard. I mean, so what does that process work? Do you talk to different companies within, Microsoft and think of strategies and stuff that way as well?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to sound cheesy, but it is one big happy family.
Brilliant. That is cheesy.
I know that is cringe. I know it's cringe, but in the sense that we're not an isolated gaming team. I speak to the guys that work on Surface, on Windows, because again, I'm learning. There's so much stuff to learn. There's so much crossover. We're speaking to the same customers in some elements. So and that's what I really love about it. Just the fact that I just have that flexibility, even from a games perspective. I'm working with the best game studios. I'm working with Rare, Ninja Theory, and Minecraft, and 343.
Wow.
And again, we spoke about honoring their IPs, but again, I'm learning so much. I'm getting closer, you know, and just getting closer to their work ethics and
Yeah.
their main USPs, and adapting it to our roles as well. So yeah, we don't sit in isolation. I see it's feeding off the wider teams. And that's actually encouraged. There's so many kind of educational and training portals and elements that you can just dip in and see where other areas are, or learn from more areas. And yeah, and that's definitely encouraged, which I love. I'm nosy. I want to know it all. Just tell me everything. So
And I guess that really kind of leans into that this idea of culture and work culture, and actually being this family and being open, and being able to different perspectives, and that idea of inclusion from different perspectives, right?
yeah, yeah,
And yeah, and that's really lovely, actually. That's really cool to know, because I think a lot of the time, it's, people can think of like these massive machines like Microsoft or Sony as these, just churn out as much kind of game content, whatever, as business. But actually,
yeah,
hearing it from you, you're in that machine. And I think that's what's really lovely to hear. It's that it is like a family. It is about you know the consumer. It's about the players. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I think that's
yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that's beautiful. So, I mean, so tell me, with something like, were you quite in like active in regards to the whole like Game Pass sort of stuff with Xbox and stuff? Have you like, is there a, because I know, because I mean, Game Pass is, I mean, it's one of the, it's blown my mind in regards to it, and it comes back to the idea of that it is like streaming, right? And
Mhm.
and handling it in that sense. And I just wanted to know, like, how does how can you how does it work in regards to sort of marketing a game that, some games that you can't necessarily physically buy now, you have to do it on Game Pass, and there are some old games as well in regards to, I look at something like, or in the Blind Forest, which was released, many years ago, but it's on the Game Pass, and
Oh,
like,
it's brilliant.
you know
Yeah,
what I mean, it's
stunning.
beautiful.
Yep.
But like, but you've got to also, a lot like, I guess it's different with physically buying something, right? Physically buying a game. I guess it's now about the streaming element of it. And so when it comes to marketing that, like, how does that work? Because again, they're not physically buying a game now, they're playing it on the Game Pass. Is it the same? Is it kind of the same, or?
Yeah, do you know what it is? It's giving consumers a choice. you know,
Right.
because some people, they want to download, and there's, as you said, we've got a vast catalog for them to download in Game Pass.
Yeah, yeah.
Some people still want to buy in store. Some people want to play on the go, as I said, with cloud gaming, with Game Pass Ultimate. But and so what we're doing in terms of marketing, we are marketing the game, our game content, and this is the many ways that you can enjoy our games.
Right.
That's our marketing approach. It's not
Okay.
just, it's got to be about, Xbox Game Pass, or you got to go in store. It's like, hey, you want to play Ori? Play Ori. You can buy it in
Play
store.
Doom, play
Yeah,
Doom. It's like that kind of thing. No,
exactly. Yeah,
it's, yeah, it's
exactly.
good. It's a more wholesome approach, I guess, in that sense of it all. Okay. So look, I mean, like, I know we've got 10 minutes before we open it
Oh wow.
to the world, basically. So if anyone has any questions, please fire them in the Q&A, and I will fire them all at you, Rose. But there's something that I wanted to ask as well, which is in regards to sort of and I find it weird, advice, or or words of guidance for, like, let's say, not necessarily for other people, but what would you have given to the younger version of yourself back in, when you were at uni, or even before then, when you were playing on the PC, on land, for example? Is there any advice or any words of guidance you'd give to that younger version of yourself who?
Um, yeah, before I joined the industry, it would be to don't worry about not knowing what you want to do. you know
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
definitely, because it's like that was, came to a point when you're at college, at uni, it's like, oh my god, I don't know what I want to do. It's like, where's this taking me, even down to what course am I going to take.
Mm,
I would say that anything that you're doing, you can transfer those skills to do the job that you love. Honestly, it's like,
Mm.
don't worry about that. You know, there's people that have studied geography or biology that have transferred those skills into, you know, into something else. You know, I just kind of think that don't be restricted, or don't feel restricted to those core courses or elements that you're doing. You can utilize those skills elsewhere. That's
Mm.
the first thing I'd say. Um, and then when I join the industry, I think what I'd say to myself is that just keep going,
Oh
keep going.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, you know, the challenges, as I said, because it's a different time when I first joined, but just keep going, keep smiling, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Yeah.
Because you know, I am, you know, I do believe that I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility to help not change the industry, but improve the industry for those that are going to come up and, you know, follow
Yeah.
me in this career path. I really do believe that. I do believe that um, people have a perception about the games industry, which I want to change. You know,
Yes.
if I can change. And I think that I've worked to get in a position that I can influence change, whether it's from I don't know, a recruitment, or speaking to those recruitment leaders, etc., etc. I just feel that, you know, this is my an element of my role is also to kind of influence change and to help those that want to join and follow me as well, and those that look like me, which
I
is
mean, did you even know you were gonna fall into games, like, or
no,
that, you know, that, and I mean, like, that's, isn't that wild?
yeah, honestly, I mean, I got IDOS was from an online, not online, a high street recruiter. You know, it's like, we've got a
Wow.
sales job. Yeah, okay, yeah. But it just happened to be IDOS. Oh my God, Tomb Raider. You know, it's like, I had no idea. And that's what I mean. Can you imagine? There's no careers teacher that would say, "Oh, you could have a career in games." That was never the case. That wasn't a proper job. You know, when I first started games, all my friends used to, you know, tease and say, "Oh, Rose is not going to, she's never going to get a proper job." Or
Of a
when,
career.
you know, because it's like, you don't go to uni and play games. But that's again, that's the educational route as well, right? From the careers and the teachers, it's like, well, actually, you know, I don't have development skills. I know nothing about coding, anything else, but you can actually get a job from the publishing side, you know, because you know, if you study sales or marketing or finance or operations. Do you see what I mean? But again, there's nothing there that can champion that. You know, you know, and as I said, you can utilize those transferable skills as well. I did psychology, you know, so it is that massive education to, you know, to really steer that career path. You know, but you should always do something that you enjoy, right? And you know, a lot
Yeah.
of people are not many people are fortunate to do that,
Mm.
but that's because there's a perception of what a job
What
should
a
be,
job should look like and
viable
what it
job.
should be.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, like, it's funny actually saying that. It's that whole thing of again, like, as you see, as you said, your parents are Ghanaian, right?
yeah,
So mine are Kenyan, and the idea of, you know, working in games or being an actor is like, that's not a proper job. Being a doctor or being a
yeah,
pilot is a proper
you're a
job.
lawyer.
You
Yeah,
know, or a lawyer. So it
yeah,
must be that, you know, that idea of, it's such it's such a wild industry that you know, I didn't even know that you could have a career in it.
yeah,
But yeah,
exactly.
I think you're right in the sense of that there is, you know, people like you need to almost set the example and set the change, because otherwise it's, you know, when is it ever going to happen?
Mm,
But yeah, I I really rate that, really do.
yeah.
Oh,
I just say, I have to shout out to that point. I have to shout out to my mum actually, because you know, single parent family, but mum, unlike others African parents, she was never one of those. You know what? You got to be a doctor and lawyer. She was almost,
really?
what makes you happy, Rose? Go and be happy and make a career of it. You know, she actually supported absolutely everything. You know, all the paths that I was even thinking of, etc. She was like, no, 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 no. Whatever you want to do, whatever makes you happy, just do it, and just be the best at it. You know,
Yeah.
so that kind of that ethos of training and studying, you know, that craft. If that's what you want to do, go for it and be the best at it. You know, so that, yeah, shout out to mum.
And all your family and friends now are playing all the games now, so it's all good. You're saying
Exactly right.
you're the best in it. It's like this is
Yeah.
sorted for you. It's all good.
Everyone wants to work in games now, you know. Oh, you know, so yeah.
Oh, that's grand. All right. Well, look, I'm gonna ask a few questions from what I've just kind of come up here. I mean, I've got quite a few myself anyway. I could be talking to you for ages. So let me ask some of these questions first. So one of the questions actually is, uh, what do you think the industry can do more to reach new and more diverse audiences?
I think that we need to continue the story, right, of representation. That I can't stress how important that is, you know, and that's to encourage better representation in games content. You know, see more diverse games creators as well, you know, and that's something that we're working on. We keep talking about work, but you know, at Microsoft we have something called Gaming for Everyone. It's the Gaming for Everyone program that aims to develop an open, inclusive environment within the global gaming community, and that is looking at content creators. It's gaming characters. You know, we're looking at recruitment, and I think that's really important. I think it's important to be seen, and it's working with those key influences within the business, i.e. within the business structure, to ensure that they're changing their mindset that way. You know, I want to see more diverse partnerships, you know, which would include streamers and influencers of color as well, you know, and I guess who are as diverse as the audiences that we're making games for, you know. So I think it does really start with those organizations. And I really do champion the UK Raise the Game pledge, because it's actively telling companies, you know what, don't just talk about it as a fad, do it and tell us how you're doing it and make it happen, actively make that change. So I think that it's coming. We started, there's a long way to go, but it started, that it just has to continue. I just want to make sure that it continues and work to make sure it continues.
That's great. Another question is, what's been your favorite campaign that you've worked on? And if you can't pick one, pick two.
Well, I got to say Xbox Series X, right?
There it is. There's the marketing.
You know what? I'm not just saying that, okay? Because I mean, it was my first. Number one, it's my first at Microsoft. Number two, it was okay. How are we going to do this in a virtual world? You know, which was, and we did it, right? You know, because I've come from a place where, in previous campaigns that I've done, you know, we've had midnight launches, people snaking around the store and this, and, you know, big showcase pieces that are physical. You're actually seeing the gamer. So to transfer that to you know, a space that's a virtual space was a mean feat. So I definitely say Xbox Series X. What else? I'd have to say Batman Arkham City. At Warner Brothers.
Oh, what a game!
It honestly, absolutely loved it, because I'm actually a Marvel fan, but I do like Batman and I like Wonder Woman. I digress. But so I like working on Batman. And just from a marketing perspective, the artwork, that Rocksteady created with, the assets that I had to play with were just stunning. Honestly, I loved it, really loved that. And again, I think what I do love about the campaigns that I work on, it is the community, it is the gamers. It is like, you've worked on this behind the scenes, right? And you build up to launch. It's like, okay, are they going to like it? Are they going to like it? Yes, they like it. And that's what I mean about the social immediacy now. I can see straight away, you're on social media to get that feedback from your games, right? But I remember Batman Arkham City, it was just, you know, it's having that reception, you know, as I said, in those times it would have been at the midnight launches and the, you know, the big kind of events that you're having. But then ultimately it's people talking about it, it's watching people play online and the feedback, and I love that. I really do.
Were you playing it during like the build phase of it all and everything? Were you
yeah, absolutely, yeah. Early code, how far's that code? Yeah. Let's just test it out. Yeah, we can do it. Honestly, and you know what else? I think the best thing about that as well is that when you kind of playing and looking at the game early code and you see development, you know, you see a code that's like 30% finished and then 60, and it's like, whoa, this looks amazing.
That is wild.
I love it. Because even that's the best bit, right? You're not looking at you're not just seeing the finished product, you're seeing the work in progress. And yeah, I love that. So, and I think also as when you're looking after a games category, it's your responsibility now, having seen that developer's journey, the studio's journey. It's like, okay, I need to take their baby and really, you know, make it work, you know, and especially with the indie developers as well, you know, who won't have the budgets of the AAA publishers. It's like, you know what, these guys have been working on their baby for years. You have to honor it. You have to do well. You have to bring it to market, bring it to their consumers and honor them. So yeah it's both those elements of that.
Cool. So, all right, this is actually more of a question from me, but I've been really interested in asking different developers about this anyway, but and different sort of people in the industry about it. But like for a pastime, because for me, like I would always play games to sort of relax and to chill. It's like that's my turn off. I'm playing a game now. I'm enjoying it, like watching TV or anything. I mean, you're surrounded by games, right? So I mean, is it playing games or what do you what's your way of almost like turning off for us?
Downtime. It's yeah, do you know what? Admittedly, it's not as much as I used to, but
Mm.
not as much as I used to because you're surrounded by games. But I
Yeah.
still play games for it is still the escapism. And
Mm.
it's like I love movies as well, but movies there's a set completion, right? You know what's happening. But then you have that escapism in games, and some games you can influence the ending. I just that's the main difference.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, and I think having kind of young kids in the family, it's always a plus when you can
Always a
kind
thing, right? Yeah.
yeah, I remember when my nephew was younger, and we he grew up on Lego Batman. That's Lego Batman and Lego Indy and Harry Potter. That's we grew up together on on those games. Or I grew up with him. Um, but yeah, I still I still play, and also, as I said, when you're working on a game, it's you want to have a look at that day launch. You want to jump in and just have a little taste. Especially if you there's something that you miss and you see something online, it's like okay, all right, let me just jump and have a quick look, or again you get that feedback from the players and consumers. So yeah, I still do, not as much as I used to, but I still dip in. Yeah.
Still dip into it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
And actually, funny enough, because of lockdown, I was off work for a bit. I'm playing Watch Dogs at the moment because I just want to see London. you
yeah,
know, right? It's like I have to see I miss it. I miss central.
that is your way of like
Yeah,
looking around London and everything. I was
exactly.
literally gonna ask you like what you playing at the moment, and you told me Watch Dogs. You're not even escaping London. That's brilliant. That is so brilliant.
Yeah. So and see.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
Okay. And so in regards to like what's next then? What is like 2021 looking for you? Like how's that looking, in regards to what's gonna come next? Now that the Series X is launched and incredibly successfully. I mean and as well as the S, and they are beautiful machines. That's again something to be absolutely proud of in regards of bringing that to light to the public. And so yeah, so what is next for you then? Is it just, the next sort of challenge and everything? And what is it? Tell me.
Well, loads of great games, and we've announced that our Master Chief is back
Hey,
next year.
oh,
So
I'm
yeah.
working on a TV show on that, so I'm excited for this.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Nice.
So
We need to talk, Abby.
that's kind of next, eh?
Yeah, yeah. It's all about Chief. It's all about welcoming him back. So
That's cool.
yeah, it's going to be exciting year. But aside from Halo, there's so much stuff happening. Just even in terms of content updates and DLCs.
Mm,
I couldn't go on. Forza Horizon 4, Gears, Sea of
yeah.
Thieves. There's
Open end.
loads of stories to tell still,
Yeah.
and make sure that our gamers are knowing when these stories are happening. There's still lots of elements there that we have to do.
And I think what's beautiful as well is that you are now in a position of influence, and you are now in a position of making these big changes as well. And actually, your voice is incredibly respected and heard within this industry because of the experience that you've got, but also from the perspective that you come from. And I think that's what's really exciting as well from my perspective to looking at what you can do and what you can bring. I've just seen this question just slip in just now, which is actually really quite interesting. I'm going to ask you. I know that we're running out of time, but
Okay.
here's what they say. They say, I love Rose's enthusiasm. I saw her speak at an event the other week, and it's been rewarding to hear her advice tonight. So thank you.
Ah, thank you.
She's worked a lot on AAA games, but what does she think of what the future holds for independent developers?
Um, Good question. I still think there's a place for independent developers.
Mm,
I think that I guess working on the publisher side, I always have as I said, a responsibility to make sure we do them well. We honor them. We honor the work and their integrity and the content that they're putting out as well. I think that, as I said, I still think there's a space for them in this market, and I think that also not just our consoles, but the industry as a whole, all platform holders are still championing independent developers, because they do great games, and as I said, we need those developers to create games for our machines, so as I said, there's definitely still a place for them, and we're still working with them, and our idea Xbox, for example, it really champions indie developers, and we continue to do that. So yeah, keep going, and as I said, we need you, because people won't play our consoles without them, without your content. So
Rose, this was so lovely. It was so interesting to just hear from again a perspective in which, because normally you think it, you talk to like an artist or a programmer or like a like a writer within the world, but to talk to someone within the almost like within the publishing side of things, the actual the ones that give us the content and sell us the content and actually tell us what we're going to be playing in that story. It's so interesting and fascinating, and especially uh you know as someone who is so uh passionate about diversity and inclusion. I mean, really, thank you so much. Like this was lovely.
thank
But
you for
look,
having me. Thanks for the
sure.
interviews, and thanks for those that are watching anyway as well.
Well, look, the next interview is going to be on the 8th of Jan, which will put Adrian Hom on the hot seat with Rose, hosting the panel and interviewing. But again, I want to say thank you so much, Rose. Really, really, really dug it, man. Really, thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks, Abby. Thanks,
Great.
guys.